Cookie, Taehyung said again after several moments, causing Jungkook's head to snap straight. What are you doing here? He dropped his hand and watched as Jungkook's eyes widened even more, looking down at his chest as if Taehyung had left a handprint there. Taehyung almost swore he could see it too. He considered putting his palm and fingers back to Jungkook's shirt, but he decided against it. Jungkook let out a soft sound as his gaze found Taehyung again. Talk to me, Jungkook, please. Why did you come here? Jungkook began fidgeting, wringing his fingers together as he opened his mouth to speak. I need you, I know, Taehyung said, holding his hand up when he noticed that Jungkook was trying to move back in. You said that in your text. What's wrong? Jungkook shifted, looking like a kitten that had been kicked. Need you, he said again, quieter this time. Taehyung sighed, agitation beginning to form in little bubbles under his skin. Jungkook, come on, I don't know what's wrong if you don't tell me. What do you need? Jungkook squeezed his eyes shut and swallowed hard. I need you, he spoke, a raspy force behind the words. So that's what Jungkook needed. Taehyung let out a long exhale through his nose. He tried to breathe through the icy shock that the title sent jolting through his system. Sir, just 3 letters that had his mind reeling. Images of Jungkook bent over his lap or on all fours suddenly filling Taehyung's head. It was a name that Taehyung didn't think he'd ever hear from Jungkook's mouth again. But now that he had, Taehyung instantly stood up straighter, as if his body was automatically preparing to fill the role that Jungkook had bestowed upon him. Whether Taehyung's brain was on board was a different story. Jungkook, please, sir, please, Jungkook interrupted, his voice low and breathy. Please, I need it. I need you, I need to be good for you, please. Taehyung shook his head, eyes closed. This was too much. He hadn't heard from Jungkook in 28 days. He hadn't touched him in nearly 2 months, and Jungkook hadn't called him sir, hadn't begged and broken and bent to Taehyung every command, in who even knows how long. Memories of dominating Jungkook suddenly barged into Taehyung's brain, pushing and shoving and making themselves at home. Gasps and cries and pleading eyes were now flashing through the forefront of Taehyung's consciousness. Those same pleading eyes were gaping at him now. The fierce intensity inside of them made Taehyung feel like he was being stabbed in the gut. Jungkook, he repeated, trying to focus on somewhere other than Jungkook's eyes. Sir, Jungkook said again, voice breathy and soft in such a way that made a shiver race up Taehyung's spine. Jungkook had assumed a position of a slightly bowed head, legs shoulder-width apart and his hands stuck behind his back. Taehyung opened his mouth to tell Jungkook to stop that, to stand up straight and let his hands go back to doing something natural, like chewing his nails or playing with his rings. However, the words didn't come. Jungkook, why was that all he could say? Jungkook winced as he looked up at Taehyung, eyes shiny and wet as he pressed his lips together. I need it, sir, please, he said after a moment. I'll be such a good boy for you. Anything you ask, I'll do it, no hesitation, I'll do it all. His voice sounded husky, a way that was causing a familiar itch deep inside of Taehyung's brain. You can hurt me, you can demean me, you can force me to service you, I'll do anything, sir. Please let me be a good to you, please. Shut up, Taehyung hissed, the words and his tone surprising him. Jungkook seemed surprised too, though the shock on his face disappeared after a split second, soon being replaced by darkened eyes and parted lips, which he fell to his knees. I'm sorry, sir, he murmured, tucking his chin to his chest. Taehyung took a step back, running his fingers through his hair as he watched Jungkook sit back on his heels, hands still tucked behind him. Jungkook almost hated himself for forgetting his place, for losing control and letting his dominant side slip out when the boy in front of him was very much not his sub anymore. Jungkook wasn't anything to him. He was just another ex. Taehyung almost believed this thought. Almost? Jungkook, Taehyung said, wanting to scream at the fact that this was now the 7th time he had said only the boy's name in a span of 5 minutes. Jungkook shifted, picking up his head slightly but not meeting Taehyung's face. "Please don't call me that," he whispered. "Don't wanna be me right now. Wanna be under." A hand came around from behind his back to quickly wipe at his eye before Jungkook hurried to resume his position, as if he had made a mistake by moving. Taehyung was breaking. He couldn't bear to see Jungkook cry, not like this, not on his knees while they were both fully clothed, not before anything had even started. Taehyung tried to shake this thought from his head, before anything started. There was no starting things. This was not going to turn into anything. "Cookie," he said gently, unable to stop the nickname from slipping past his lips. He took a step forward without consciously telling his feet to do so. "Look at me." It had come out more commanding than Taehyung had meant it to. Jungkook obeyed immediately, and Taehyung realized just as fast that this command was a mistake. Jungkook's eyes looked so lost, ashamed and shattered and damp and desperate. They were calling to Taehyung, to a deep dark part of him that had been lying dormant for months but was now suddenly bursting to claw its way out. Jungkook's eyes only acted as hands that were trembling as they tried to pick the lock that was holding Taehyung back. "Please, Daddy," Jungkook whispered suddenly, as a tear rolled down his cheek. Taehyung's stomach sank as this new word hit him square in the chest. Something about those two syllables strung together in an imploring whimper had Taehyung melting at the core, ready to turn into a puddle for Jungkook to drink from. It wasn't just the polite submissive utterance of "sir," it was deeper, hungrier. Jungkook needed him. His daddy, and Taehyung was quickly falling into the role as naturally as Jungkook had fallen to his knees. Taehyung groaned, reaching forward until his hand was in Jungkook's hair, when had he gotten him close enough to touch the boy again, combing it back until it wrapped itself around Taehyung's fingers. He gave a light tug, watching as Jungkook's head fell back with a gasp. Jungkook's throat was now in plain sight, exposed, in this fact only being exaggerated when his Adam's apple bobbed harshly as he swallowed hard. Taehyung crouched down, his free hand wrapping itself around Jungkook's neck. The expanse of Jungkook's skin felt foreign to Taehyung, not only because it had been ages since they had connected in this way, but also because Jungkook's neck was bare. His collar should have been fastened snugly against his throat, with the cold metal ring tickling Taehyung's palm and sending an icy zing through the center. But all he felt now was soft warm flesh, just his skin directly against Jungkook's. Something about it felt so much more trivial and shallow than it usually did. He wondered if Jungkook could feel the difference too. "Tell me what you said before," Taehyung said lowly, against his better judgment. He knew he should stop. He should pull away. He shouldn't be talking to Jungkook like this, touching him like this. Taehyung's hand gave a light squeeze and then loosened in an attempt to distract himself from the lack of leather against his palm. "Wanna be your..." Jungkook slurred, the words buzzing through Taehyung's hand as Jungkook attempted to press his neck further into it. There it was again, that sick, heightened reminder that Jungkook wasn't currently collared, that he no longer belonged to Taehyung, that he and Taehyung weren't even in a relationship anymore. Taehyung tightened his grip, trying to simultaneously sink his fingertips into Jungkook's skin and put some space between the front of Jungkook's throat and Taehyung's palm. Normally, when Taehyung choked Jungkook, the dome was filled with a rush of power, of possession, a gorgeous little chant of mine, my boy whipping through his ears as he held his whole world in his right hand. But now it was nothing like that. His brain was silent, his nerves were still, no rush, no chant, just a tight heat erupting from his paws that had him feeling like he was the one being choked. He yanked his hand away as if he had been burned, blinking hard as the sound of a gasp reached his ears. Whether it came from only his chest or Jungkook's as well, he couldn't be sure.